So I've got my loungewear on, I've got a cup of tea, and I'm having like a full-on cozy moment right now. And you're here with me because I want to talk to you about books I've read this year that I think you guys really need to read. Awaken by Priscilla Shirer. This is actually a devotional, so I have been reading an entry per week with a group of girls who come around my house every other week, and we kind of study it and talk about what we learned from that week. Honestly, there's so much I love about this book. The devotionals are deep and engaging and biblical and full of like real Jesus Bible wisdom, but also relatable funny stories. At the end of each entry, there's like a set of questions and a space to write your reflections, which I really appreciate because I have to engage with scripture or with a like devotional to really take it in and to like learn something from it. So I really appreciate this book. The next book is a book I read on my Kindle, and it is called Present Over Perfect by Shauna Nyquist. I think. This book is good. Like, if you're struggling with life being too anxious or busy, or if you're struggling with thoughts and feelings of comparison, or like you just feel like your life is just going and going and going, this book is a must read. Shauna shares her life story about how she had this very like achievement oriented Christian life, and through God's presence found a way to slow down. So it shares her story from going from proving herself and living to other people's expectations to finding God's peace and rest in slowing down and living like an intentional, simple life. Which, I'll be honest, is definitely what a lot of us need. There's one quote I loved from this book, which was, "This is a story of my sea change. The journey from one way of living to another. It's also an invitation to a sea change of your own. No matter your age, your gender, your season of life, no matter your politics or profession, your sexuality or your faith tradition, you are invited into a sea change." So if you feel like you need a sea change in your life, and if you feel like your life is just really busy or you're struggling to keep your head above water, this book is super practical and super helpful. I found it really beneficial when I was studying my masters, and I just felt like I was trying to do everything all at once, and it just helped me to slow down and like be more mindful. It's a good book. Practicing His Presence. This little book is a twofer. It has two in one. One book was written by Frank Laubach as he began spending moments in his day dwelling in the presence of God. And he actually went and practiced it so much that from minute to minute, he was aware of the presence of God. Which is like crazy, because from one moment to the next, I'm not even aware of my own presence. The other book in this book is by Brother Lawrence, who basically lived centuries before Frank Laubach, but did the same thing. Sometimes we have those moments where the Spirit just like kicks our feet out from underneath us and we're rendered unmovable in the presence of God. But this book taught me that God's presence is so good and so tender and so sweet that I don't need to avoid Him until I can carve out like hours on a Sunday morning to just like sit at the foot of Christ and just weep. It definitely taught me the importance of carving out time for solitude with God, but also that I can be at work, or I can be watching TV, or I can be doing my chores or the laundry or hanging out with my friends and still be in His presence and still recognize the presence of the Spirit in the room. And actually doing that will make me better at all the things I'm doing and not distract me from engaging with the people I'm with or engaging with the work I'm trying to do. This practicing the presence of Christ takes all our time, yet does not take from our work. And another one here. Everybody rests at the end of the day. What a gain if everybody could rest in the waiting arms of the Father and listens until He whispers. That is like literally so lush. That's what I want my life to be like. sitting in the arms of the Father. This is a lovely book. And it's small, so it's really easy to read. There's not a lot to read. It's very, very tiny. Look at this. Okay, the next books are a series called The Testing by Joelle Charbonneau, which is like an awesome name. If you're gonna have a name as a book writer, you should call yourself something super fancy like that. What would my book person name be? Basically, these are like fictional books that I just love to read after I've been reading lots of really heavy spiritual wisdom. I really need a fictional book to sink my teeth into to just like rest a bit. These are set in a dystopian future where if you want to get education, you basically have to fight to the death. So it's kind of a long story, but it's super gripping. It's full of questions about justice and honor and human rights, and every time I pick up one of these books I just devour it, so I have to leave a few months in between or I just won't get anything done. I'm currently on the third one, so if you've read them all, no spoilers please. Please. My next book, Loved As by Bob Goff. There are so many reasons why you should read this book. It is full of life and joy and funny stories. It is basically a story of his life and how God turned it into a story all full of adventure and love and basically turned him into a bit of a superhero. He fights human trafficking, he became a lawyer even though he completely bombed the LSAT. He fell in love, he helped other people fall in love, and he just has a really nice language for how he hangs out with his friend Jesus. It's just so infectious. I love it. This is a 10 out of 10 book. Unseen by Sarah Haggerty. I love this book so much. Sarah Haggerty shares some of her life stories and how she's learnt to value the moment where she's most unseen, hence the name of the book. So it's basically all about those moments where you feel invisible to the whole world and how God can craft them into times where you can really put down deep roots with him so that your foundation is really formed in those like quiet, deep moments. It's definitely a book that helped me in a time where I felt like I was so alone and isolated from my family and my church family. It's helped me find an appreciation for quiet times in my life, for times of solitude, and a deeper level of value for finding God's presence in the mundane moments of my life. Like when I'm just walking to town or doing my chores or doing my editing. This book has added so much value to my life, and I know other people who have read it that had just like fell in love with Sarah's story and her heart for God's presence. This book, Keep Your Love On by Danny Silk. So if you're a couple, if you are married, if you are single, if you have friends, if you have a family, if you've been hurt or loved or traumatized or abused by anyone at any time, this book is for you. Despite the way it looks, it's not just a book that's like mushy and all about how to just stay in love. This book is a practical toolkit for how to manage yourself in relationships, but also to take responsibility for yourself and your boundaries, and how to create boundaries in relationships that are healthy and to avoid toxic relationships in your life. It's a really good book. Definitely don't judge it by its cover. My husband and I have been reading this book together over the last year, and each time we read a chapter, I'm amazed by what it reveals about me and my thought life and my heart life, about my own unhealthy behaviors or like secret thoughts, but also how simple the wisdom in here is. Toward the end of the book, they set out guidelines for setting limits in relationships and how to create boundaries. So it really is like a good book for anyone who has any kind of relationships, not just an in-love one. "12 Ways Your Phone is Changing You" by Tony Rinke. I really hope that's how you say his name. I would recommend this book to literally everyone on the planet. because almost every person has a smartphone, and if not, they have definitely engaged with social media or media of some sort, or struggle with feelings of comparison or loneliness or low self-esteem. This book is full of like really engaging and challenging insights into how we as people are changing because of social media, our phones, the internet, and how we engage with each other through them. Full disclosure, this book made me delete all my social media. I'd kind of wanted to for a long time anyway, but this book just like pushed me over the edge. So if you're finding that all your relationships stem from your phone, or you're just one of those people who constantly has their phone out in a social situation, which isn't okay, by the way. Like, if you come to my house and you just sit on Instagram, I'm gonna think that's rude. Like, I'm sorry, but I invite you into my home and I want to spend time with you and have your attention and give you my attention and share things with you. That's just the way it is. So if you're one of those people who has come to my house and sat on your phone the whole time, get this book. And if you're not one of the people who have come to my house, I'd love to have you over, but get this book anyway, because if you come to my house and you use your phone, I'm going to be mad. We forget how to meet God, and yet we defend our smartphones, unwilling to admit that we're more concerned with controlling the mechanics of our lives than in worshipping the God whose sovereign power directs our every breath. This book is a good book. Anyways, that's it. Those are my recommendations. I'm currently working my way through 3 books. This book called Braving the Wilderness by Brené Brown. The Testing 3, which I told you about earlier. And a book that's not for the faint-hearted called The Good Girl's Guide to Great Sex by Sheila Ray Gregor. Oh, her name is so hard to say. Sheila Ray Gregor. Okay, yeah, that will do. I'll just say it in a funny voice every time. Like, full disclosure, it is for single women, married women, divorced women, women of any kind. It could also be for men too. It's really practical, very blunt. Like, I tried to read it at in the doctor's waiting room and I blushed so hard that I had to put it away. But I'm quite enjoying this book. But I will let you know what I think about all 3 of those books when I finish them. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I hope that you're taking a lovely little moment to put on your loungewear and grab a good book and just treat yourself this afternoon. And if you did like this video, be sure to press that thumbs up button, and don't forget to subscribe, guys. I'll see you guys next time. Bye for now.